Are we doing this? Is this live? Are we are we doing this for the second week in a row? Are we daring to come back and do a live episode? I think we are. So I think we're gonna jump right into it right now. Coming to you from the Oddball Podcast Studios in New York City. My name is Vin Forte, and you're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. Go follow the show over on Twitter at Oddball Podcast. Follow the personal account at Mighty Vin. Follow me over on Instagram at VinForteNYC. Go subscribe over on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts from. You know where to get your podcasts from because you're listening to one right now. Also, if you haven't guessed by the fact that some of you may be watching this instead of listening to it, you can subscribe also on YouTube now. YouTube.com/at Oddball Podcast. That's YouTube.com/at @ Oddball Podcast. And subscribe to the video portion. It's free. Obviously, we're not doing I say we, it's just me. I'm not doing any kind of Patreon or give me some money or whatever. No, just subscribe. Help out. Spread the word. Do all those shenanigans. Big show today. Big playoff show. Once again, got a lot to get to NBA-wise. Got some sad Scottie Pippen news. And also a nice little cool-down segment involving our friends over at Burger King. Once again, if you've listened to this pod for a while, you know what I think of Burger King. And if not, you'll find out. So we will get into all of that shortly. But first, I think we gotta, there's only one place to start, and it's with these guys. The Miami Heat winning Game 7, thwarting the Boston Celtics from doing the impossible, completing the impossible dream. They were down. The Celtics were 3-0. And, hey, look, they had a valiant comeback. They did that presser where they said, don't give us one. Then it was like, don't give us two. Then it was like, okay, like we're taking it to 7. And then they just, they laid an egg. They laid an egg in Boston on home court. Now, Jason Tatum obviously went down within the first possession of the game, so you have to give them some leniency there. But everybody's got injuries. That game was not nearly as close as it should have been, even with Tatum hobbled for most of the game, doing what he can. I think he still got 14 points, was still facilitating. Obviously not at full strength, so you do have to put that into consideration. But one of these teams is going to make history. That's kind of the cool thing about this series. Apparently, it was one of the most watched NBA games in over 10 years, since the 2012 playoffs. Don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I believe that's accurate. And I believe it. Because look, this was compelling TV. We talked a couple of weeks ago, and everyone, talked about how the marquee matchup between Steph Curry and LeBron James, bolstered the ratings in the Western Conference. And look, you kind of got the same thing in the East, not with star power per se, but when you give someone a compelling storyline, they will show up. And that's something that I've talked about in the past, specifically not so much with the NBA, but as it relates to the MLB and how, what can they do? Because they're kind of in a bind right now where they're looking for ways to, bring more people into the fold, bring younger people into the fold who maybe, watched baseball with their dad when they were younger, but, slipped out when they got older and haven't really come back. It's because there's no compelling storylines. Okay, well, not none, but, it's because at large, in the broad sense, MLB has a hard time of, crafting those storylines, identifying long-term arcs that you can watch throughout a season, which should not be as hard in a season where you have 162 games. But when you only get up to bat, a certain amount of times, they're only playing certain teams a certain amount of times a year, that can be tough. The NBA, if you've got something hot, you can catch fire like that. And having a team in the Celtics be down 3-0, come back in the way that they came back, God bless them if they had won Game 7, that game before where Derek White made that amazing play at the end, the rebound to end all rebounds, would have been amazing. That would go down in history. But now it's one of those things that, was it amazing at the time? Yeah, it's still an amazing play. You can't take that away from him. But at the end of the day, you look at it now and you go, okay, what could have been? That could have been a moment that galvanized the team, emboldened them even more. Hey, we almost lost it, but our teammate got us back in the game at the very last second. And we went out a game later and did what no one ever did. But instead, now you got this. You got this going on. Oh, poor Bill Simmons. I say poor Bill. He's doing just fine. Don't cry for Bill Simmons. But he's kind of become a meme in the past couple of days because of that face. That lonesome hangdog, whatever you want to call it, face. And look, I get it. Again, you come so close to doing something that no one else has ever done in the NBA. Ever. And it's hard to look back at your season and be like, okay, we almost got to the top of the mountain again. Let's run it back. And the question then becomes, well, what do the Celtics do? And we'll get back to Miami in a moment. But just because we're on the Celtics, let's keep going with it. Do they just run it back? There's word in the offseason that, do they split up Tatum and Brown? I don't think so. I know there's always been rumors that, can they, like they say in the WWE, can they coexist? I think they can. I think the playoffs have shown they can. I think a lot of that speculation and conjecture out in Boston is just that. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. Maybe you know something I don't. But I think it's more conjecture than anything. And, look, you got to the finals last year. You got to the conference finals this year. Who's to say you can't get back to the top next year? Now, there are going to be the pessimists out there that go, okay, well, finals last year, conference finals this year. Are you going to go a step lower next year? And you do have to worry about that as well. You have to worry about Joe Mazzulla. Is he the coach? I think there's still some question marks there. He didn't make the adjustments in those first couple games that, could have kept them in play. And, this has been a team that when they're rolling, they're really rolling. Like, they look every bit as good as the best team in basketball. But when they're down, they just can't seem to make the right adjustments. Can't seem to come from behind, as it were. So, there's a lot of questions about the strategy of this team, how they go about dealing with teams when they're down. And, I think that falls on the coach. Because we've seen time and time again. Like, again, when this team is good, the talent is there. So we know it's not a talent issue. So it falls on the strategy. It falls on the coaching. May not be a head coaching thing. We always go right to the head coach. Could be an offensive coaching thing. Could be a defense. They're going to have to look at the details. They're going to have to look at the nitty gritty and come back. That's what they get paid the big money to do. They're going to have to, in the front office and the coaching staff, look at what worked, what didn't work, and see what they can do. But I'm just saying, I don't think you have to upset the apple cart too much, because this team has shown that they're still one of the best in the league. Can't get to the top of the mountain yet. They haven't gotten back there yet. But they were just there. They were this close to getting there this year. I don't think it's as dire as some people are claiming. So we will see. But we're going to go back to the Miami Heat, because these guys are maybe the feel-good story of the year. 8th seed, again, I will reiterate until the end of this season, when maybe Miami hoists the Larry O'Brien trophy, that They did what the Mavericks should have done, which is seize their opportunity. And they, more and more and more, as every day of this season passes, every week of this season passes, where they, advance and get more wins, and now find themselves going to the NBA Finals. This Miami Heat team has shown what you can do when you just are presented with a shot and you take it. Because remember, it wasn't just that they snuck into the play-in. They lost that first play-in game. So they were coming from a real disadvantage and were on their last shot. They were on their absolute last thread. And they could have been out of it. But instead, they galvanized. They took their shot. They said, okay, we're in. Now nothing else matters. We've got the same odds as everyone else, in theory. Just as long as, we stick together, we do what needs to get done. Obviously, I'm not naive. You got to have a little bit of star power there, which they do. You got playoff Jimmy there, come on. But you've also got Gabe Vincent. You've got some experienced guys in Kevin Love, Bam Adebayo, giving you some defense. And you've got all these undrafted guys. And if they win a championship, that's going to be the story, is those undrafted guys. Now, a lot of people have made a lot of hay about, this team that has come from behind. Again, they were an 8th seed. How now they're, coming into the finals. They're going to be playing Denver, obviously. As of this recording, that first game is going to be tonight, so I don't have the results of game 1 by the time you're hearing this. But, again, it's just game 1. A lot can happen. If one team blows out the other team, okay, we're still sitting here a day later going, okay, what does that mean? Let's say Jokic comes out, smacks the Heat in the mouth. That could mean, that okay, the Heat are done and they've, taken a big hit and they're not going to recover, or that's going to, galvanize them and, give them a big splash of cold water and wake them up, and then the Heat are going to come out roaring the next 3 games. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock in game 1, so we'll just put that on the back burner until the next episode when things are really going to get heated up. But I do want to talk about the odds. And I want to talk about, this year was called ESPN's Analytics, but last year was ESPN's Power Index. So I want to talk about ESPN's Power Index, and for 2 years in a row, how they have vastly overestimated Boston. Look at this. 86, if you're watching on YouTube right now, I've got 2 graphics up. And this is about ESPN's Power Index. Last year, when it came to the NBA Finals, it says chance to win the NBA Finals. Boston Celtics, 86%. Golden State Warriors, 14%. Which is insane. And I get it. Look, I get it. The Celtics were the favorite last year. But the Warriors have a championship pedigree. You'd think that their odds would be a little better than 14%. Just a little bit. I'm not saying you give them, even odds, but you give them a little better than 14%. I mean, come on. But this year, when it came to the Eastern Conference Finals, they were more egregious. Somehow more egregious. Because they gave the Miami Heat, and again, I get it. They're an 8th seed. I get it. But they gave the Boston Celtics a 97% chance of winning over the Miami Heat, who had a lowly 3% chance of winning. Now, I'm going to hit you with some Steiner math, okay? This is not accurate math. This is not anything scientific. But follow me on this if you can. And you'll find out why I'm not getting into the details by the time we get to the end of it. But if you were to give all 8 playoff teams in the East the same odds of reaching the finals. All 8 teams, we're only talking playoff teams, all things being equal, you just got to be in it to win it. They each have a 12.5% chance of winning. Now, using that logic, you would add and subtract odds based on who knocks off who. So, if you're an 8th seed and you knock off a 3 seed, your chances obviously go up. If you're, a 5 seed and you knock off a 6 seed, maybe your chances only go up a little bit because, you can't really tell a whole lot from that. But you kind of get the idea. Your odds, move and change based on who you beat and what seed you are. So even with that very generous math, that very loose math, you're telling me that the Miami Heat, who knocked off a number 1 and a number 3 seed, somehow have 3/4 less of a chance than when they started? If they were all starting out with 12.5% to win, again, all things being equal, you're telling me that now their chances are 3/4 less than that going into the finals. Going into the Eastern Conference Finals, knowing what we know about the Miami Heat. You're giving them 3%, not 14%, not 10%, not 8%, 3% chance to win. That is insane. I don't know who's doing the analytics over at ESPN. I don't know who's doing the power rankings, but I want to know how they come up with these numbers. I need to know. For the second year in a row, I got to know who's coming up with this. And to kind of add insult to injury, what was it? Was it Mike Greenberg? I was watching a clip online where he said, I no longer believe that, the best team in basketball, wins. Because, the Boston Celtics were, he was doubling down that, the Boston Celtics were the better team, but, Miami won in spite of that. Something to that effect. And it's like, yeah, that's how sports works. It's I don't know, man. Like I've had this argument with people a lot. And this is maybe a different topic for a different day. No, it's a topic for right now because we're talking about it and it's my show. A lot of people have this idea that the best team throughout the regular season and then through most of the playoffs, if they get knocked off, then, that's not fair. Or that the person who knocked them off, it's somehow fugazi because, it was just by chance that they happened to knock off a better team. No, the team that got knocked off is not the better team at that point. It's the same argument that I have with people about the regular season. And when people go, the regular season doesn't matter. That, it's just the preseason to the playoffs that is the real season. That 2-month period, where we got playoffs. That's the real deal. And it's like, no, like the regular season is part of the process. It's a war of attrition. You have to get to the end of it. And you have to get to it with the most amount of guys on your team healthy and intact and ready to play in the playoffs. And that could mean that you utilize load management. That could mean that you don't believe in load management. Could be that you're a team that jacks up threes. Could be that you're a team that gets your points in the paint. There's a million ways you can go about getting to the end of the season. You could be a team that makes sure that you're in the playoffs and then takes the gas off the brakes at the end because you feel that, okay, you just need to be in it to win it. Or you feel that maybe you got to go hard at the end of the season to secure a 1 or 2 seed. And then what happens in the playoffs is, the next step of the process. And deciding, okay, depending on who you're matched up with, how you're going to play them, what guys you're going to... It's all part of the process. And if you can't... and yeah, there's a little bit of luck at play as well, but if you can't make it to the end of the gauntlet, then I'm sorry, you weren't the best team that year. Like, I know, Boston's a great team. I'm not taking anything away from Boston. But they're not in the finals this year. They couldn't get it done when the lights were brightest and it mattered the most. They got close. They got very, very close. They could be in it next year. They could win it next year. Not saying they can't. I'm saying they could, in fact. But they didn't this year. And these are the rules of engagement. This is how you play the game. And, we'll see you next year. I think that's, again, it's all part of the process. And you have to accept that that is part of the game. And that sometimes the quote-unquote best team, doesn't always win. And if they don't win, then you know what? They're not the best team. You could say they're a great team. You could still talk very highly of them. We still talk, highly about teams in the 90s and 80s and 2000s that were great teams, just couldn't get over the hump. The 76ers of the early 2000s got to the finals once, but we still talk about Allen Iverson like he's the Hall of Famer that he deserves to be. That team, I think there's a documentary out right now. What was it? That documentary, Everything But the Chip, about the 76ers, the Iverson 76ers, where, they won all those individual awards that year. And they literally won just everything but the chip. And we still look back at that as a great team, but it's just they weren't the best that year. They got close. They got very, very close. But they weren't the absolute best. That's all I'm saying. Again, it's take nothing away from the Boston Celtics. But, we got to call it like it is. Just got to call it like it is. So we're going to move away from the playoffs for now. Because, again, the finals are going to be heating up as of this recording tonight. So we'll have more about that as, the finals go on into next week. But we do have one more big NBA topic to talk about. And it's kind of a sad one. A while back, everyone, myself included, we were talking about when Scottie Pippen had that autobiography that he was hawking, and that whiskey or bourbon, whatever it was, digits. And he had come out and said some stuff about Michael Jordan, about Phil Jackson, and everyone was kind of like, okay, Scottie, calm down a little. And it all happened really after The Last Dance, and he felt he was misrepresented in that documentary. That, it was all about Michael, it was Michael's team, he doesn't give us the credit, which you could say, and this was true then, this was true when The Last Dance came out, and it's true now. There are people out there who look at it as Michael's team. They won't give anyone else credit. That's just their perception. And there's nothing you can do about it. There is some truth to that. But as far as Michael himself is concerned, he's always deferred to Scottie Pippen. He always said, when you speak Michael Jordan, they should also speak Scottie Pippen's name. That's Michael who said that. It wasn't the media. It's him. Whenever he's asked about, the 90s Bulls, he says, look, we don't win anything without Scottie Pippen. So I think Jordan knows what's up. I think that Pippen, he feels slighted because he has always been the Robin. He's been the Robin to Jordan's Batman. And look, at that point, you're living in someone's shadow. As great as you are, top 50 player, top 75 player, dream team, 6 championships himself because he was on those teams. Like, we know Scottie's resume. It's an amazing resume. Hall of Fame, multiple time Hall of Famer because he's in as Scottie Pippen of the, when he was on the Bulls, and he's in Scottie Pippen, with the dream team. So what, you talk about rarefied air, like that's pretty good company. But I think there's a lot of other things going on here. And Scottie came out this week. He was doing some interview. And he said that, hey, Michael's a horrible player. We know he's a horrible teammate. He didn't win anything until we got there, which again, like Michael admits. But to come out and be like, oh, he was a horrible player, and nobody talked about him winning until we got there. again, like, nobody's denying that. Like, nobody's sitting around going, "Oh yeah, like, uh, like if Scottie wasn't there, Michael could have won more championship." Like, nobody's saying that. So I don't know what Scottie's on. And there is an elephant in the room here because we know what's going on in Scottie's personal life. Allegedly, I'm just going to say allegedly, cover myself, but we know allegedly what's going on with his ex-wife and Michael Jordan's son, and that's got to be weird. Like, there's no getting around that. That would mess up your head. So I think there's a lot of that going on here, and I think it's sad for Scottie Pippen. It's a weird situation for him to be in personally. But even before that situation, even if you take that admitted weirdness out of it, before all of that, he was still, playing this game of when people would ask, "Oh, who's the greatest?" For a while he was saying MJ, then he was saying, "Well, no, it's LeBron." Then for a while he was saying, "Wow, it can't, no way, it's LeBron, it's MJ." And now he's back to saying it's LeBron. But this time when he was asked over the weekend or last week, he said, "Oh, well, I don't really want to say who's the greatest, but, kind of like, oh, well, but we know who's not the greatest. There's that Michael Jordan." And it's like, all right, Scottie, come on. Like, we know what's going on here. And it's just sad to see because, again, more than anything, Pippen's an amazing player. Like, if you're a basketball fan, you know how good Scottie Pippen is. And, I'm sorry, like, yeah, he had his faults. But really, until The Last Dance and him sort of doing these self-inflicted wounds where he's talking, all this stuff about MJ and Phil Jackson and the stuff in the book, to a lot of fans, and again, like, people, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most fans, like, swept that stuff under the rug. When it was his team and, like, he refused to come into the game and all the contract stuff. Like, people wouldn't really bring that up. Now, yeah, if you're doing like a deep dive into that team, like, people would bring it up then. But, if you're just talking about, hey, Scottie Pippen, what's your stance on him? People were just like, oh, greatest of all time. One of the greatest of all time. 6 championships, dream team, like I said. You're not going to say he's better than Jordan, but you're going to say he's one of the greatest of all time. And, oh, what a terrible position to be in. Like, oh, you only won 6 championships? You were only on one of the greatest Olympic teams ever? You're only, a Hall of Famer? Oh, I'm so sorry. So, it's kind of sad to see. Because, again, like, I love Scottie Pippen. He's one of my favorite players. And there's a lot of people out there who would say that on a certain level, while everyone loves MJ, there's a certain type of person out there who's like, hey, Scottie's the guy. Again, like I'll reiterate it again, they don't win without Scottie Pippen. And MJ knows that, and that team knows that. And the basketball historians know that, and the fans know it. So I hope there's a redemption arc out there for Scottie. I hope there's a moment where he sort of has some clarity and realizes, even with the weirdness going on in his life, that, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, he can find some peace and that he can reconcile with MJ because, from what we've heard, like, obviously, you slight MJ in the slightest and, you're cut off. So, I hope that's not the case right now. I hope there's still room for them to come back together and be friends. I mean, again, this is a part of a lot of people's childhoods, part of NBA history, Michael and Scottie. Again, it is like Batman and Robin. I know Scottie wouldn't like that comparison, but, it is. I'm sure in his mind he would want it to be more of a Superman and Batman comparison. instead of a Batman and Robin comparison. But it is what it is. You're the number 2 on that team. You're on the same team, and you're the number 2. You're Robin. But you know what? Robin still gets to be in the Hall of Fame. Robin still gets all the accolades and attention. And I don't think that's so bad. So I hope they can come together eventually. I hope they can clear the air on this. I just hope the best for him, because it's just really sad. And we're going to move away from the NBA now, from some sad Scottie Pippen news to some. We're going to do a cool down segment now. We're going to end things off with our old friends over at Burger King. To end things with our friends over at Burger King, because they have a very lazy Spider-Verse Whopper going on right now. And if you haven't listened to this pod for a long time, a lot of times we'll do a cool down segment where we talk about something fun, goofy. A lot of times it's a weird fast food thing. But a recurring theme here is that Burger King is just weird. Burger King is weird. They do weird promotions. They'll do weird one-off promotions. They'll do a Whopper with A1 sauce in the bun that's like a Halloween Whopper, but it'll turn your BMs a different color, so they have to retract the whole promotion before, within the first 3 days of October. Can't even get to Halloween. They'll do promotions that'll be in like one location in Topeka, Kansas for like 50 minutes. You got to be there at this time to get a special Whopper. They sell their weird, awful chicken nuggets for like 20 for $1. They're weird. Burger King is weird. Every once in a blue moon, they'll hit on a good idea. And this is one that should have been a slam dunk. Because the new Spider-Man movie is coming out. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. People are really hyped for it. It looks really good. It's getting a lot of great buzz. Of all the Marvel movies, even to people who have Marvel fatigue or superhero fatigue, Spider-Man is usually one of the few where it's like, oh yeah, I'm still like I'm done with the Marvel movies, but Spider-Man, I'm always down for a Spider-Man movie. So this should have been like great synergy, home run, could have really done something cool. They're doing a special Spider-Man Whopper, and if you're watching on YouTube, you see it's a red Whopper. And you may be thinking, well, is this like their Angry Whopper? Which was one of the few successes that they had. They did an Angry Whopper a while back where it was a red bun. They had fried jalapenos or something, like Chipotle sauce on it. Like this spicy Whopper. And it was good. It's actually really good. But this was not that. Because this is basically just a regular Whopper with a red bun. And that's it. Now, I looked at the ingredient. There's Swiss cheese on it instead of, I guess, a regular cheese. So, I guess, yippee, that makes it Spider-Man themed? I don't know. But if that's all you got, then that's really lame. And they've also got, like, a Spider-Man sundae that's just a regular vanilla, like, plain Jane vanilla sundae with little, black and red candy pieces on it. Which is really that's lazy. Like all around, just a lazy effort with something that could have been so much more. Again, like you could have literally done anything, and you basically did nothing. And if you also see the like that image, they think, oh, is that like for whatever reason, you may be thinking that what's in that black cup there? Is that some kind of smoothie or frozen Coke thing? No, it's just a regular Coke or Pepsi. So they got new cups, assuming new boxes for the kids' meals, and a red Whopper. Oh boy. And I don't have the picture pulled up, but I saw, because I was curious, I'm like, you know what? Maybe they could at least knock it out of the park with the kids' meals. Like, not, because usually when a big movie comes out, even adults kind of get a little excited if you can like go and get the toy, you know what I mean? Like oh, if there's like a really cool Spider-Man toy, it's like you go to the drive-thru and it's like, oh, I'm gonna get the adult Whopper and can I also get one of the toys? Like you feel a little embarrassed, but at the same time, there are a lot of people out there that are like, yeah, I'm getting the toy. Like, and for those people, I looked it up, and apparently the toys are just like cardboard. I don't know. Look this up yourself, but it was like a cardboard playset. It's like really lazy, like D+ effort by Burger King. Again, you could have made really cool Spider-Man toys. Had a whole Across the Spider-Verse menu, and you just opted for like a red Whopper that doesn't even have anything special going on. Like the bare minimum. You got Subway out here somehow running laps around you with secret menus on the app and sandwiches named after celebrities. Like, they're leaning into being a little weirder, a little quirky. What's Burger King done lately? It's a little quirky. And yeah, again, usually Burger King's known for doing some weird quirky BS. But this ain't it. The one time, it's funny, the one time you would want Burger King to get a little crazy, that's when they don't get crazy. That's the thing, that right there, I think we brought it all the way around. That's the thing that irks me about Burger King. Is when you just want a good Whopper and you want them to just like do a new good Whopper or a new good promotion, they're like, hey, we got this weird thing that we created in a lab. Hey, we put teriyaki sauce in the lettuce. It's like, what? Well, no one asked for that. Why would you do that? We just thought it would be, you get a little kooky. It's like, well, I don't need that. But then the times like this, where it's like, hey, let's do a big promotion of our big tie-in for the Spider-Man movie. And it's like, what do we got? Let's make the bun red. Okay, cool. That's it. Workday over. It's not 9:05 in the morning. We're done. We'll do the red bun, roll out the cups, put a couple of Spider-Man eyes on that cup, just a normal black cup. And and that's it. We'll call it a day. So, Spider-Man, you're still cool. Burger King, not as cool. And I want to like Burger King. That's the thing. Go back and listen to the episode like a year ago when I had Bill Oakley on. And we talked about Burger King. It's like, look, we want to like Burger King. We want to love you. Like, like, this is stupid. You should be running laps around people. You were the original sort of premium fast food back in the 70s and early 80s. But since then, like, you're getting lapped. You're getting lapped, brother. Getting lapped by literally everybody. And you're going out sad. But you know who's not going out sad? This podcast is not going out sad this week because we are at the end. We're at the end of it. For this week anyway. As we wrap up here. Once again, subscribe if you're not already. Over on YouTube. YouTube.com/@Oddball Podcast. So do that if you're listening over on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever else you get your podcasts. If you're watching, go subscribe to the podcast. If you're only doing one, go subscribe to the other. There, simple as that. Go leave a nice 5-star rating and review. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe. Do all that wacky BS. Speaking of wacky BS, like, I hate being that guy that's like, click the bell icon to get notifications, blah, blah. Like, but you know what to do. Just go subscribe. Do that. Do a kindness for me and do that. But with all that said, I'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Again, it's the playoffs, baby. It's not even the playoffs anymore. We are into the finals. It is almost time to crown a victor. The Larry O'Brien Trophy is being wheeled out as we speak and ready for either Jimmy Butler or Nikola Jokic. Who will it be? Who will it be indeed? But I will see you back here, same time, same place. You've been listening to Oddball, Vin Forte. My name is Vin Forte. Bye-bye.